Okay. Okay. Hi. Welcome back to Deeply Sincere. I'm Ariel Weil. If you don't know me, if you've never seen the podcast, or if you just don't know who I am, that's me. I am the host, and this podcast, if you also don't know, is about spirituality and philosophy and just kind of having fun and exploring parts of life and ourselves. That's where I'd like to go with it, at least, and we'll see what happens. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for coming back. If you've seen the previous episodes, you may notice or recognize that we are in a different location once again, but also there's only one person on the screen, and it's me. So I wanted to start doing some solo episodes, and that's where we are right now, in my apartment. Crazy, very intimate space. Different sort of environment. I'm a little sick, as you can probably tell, but I just wanted to share some things with you guys. It's Thanksgiving, and I just wanted to share what I have and put myself out there and see where this goes. So, hi, welcome. It's very interesting, the concept of a podcast, because I just want to have like a conversation with you guys, but it's also, I'm not talking to anyone, I'm kind of just talking to myself, which I do, actually. I do talk to myself in my free time. It's normal. I know a lot of people do it. It's fun. I love to talk. That's why I wanted to start a podcast in the first place, if this episode is just kind of me telling you a bit about me. I think communication is really an important trait of mine. I think in my past, like, relationships with other people, whatever relationship, like platonic, romantic, I've always found that communication is just really important. And I think that a lot of issues in our human world go, what's the word here? Ironic, right? Because when you're talking about communication. But a lot of issues arise because two people miscommunicate, or like multiple people miscommunicate. And I think that sometimes a lot of people are on the same page or have similar feelings or are willing to open up more about their feelings. They just misunderstand each other. Like, someone says one thing and the other person misinterprets it because a word has a certain connotation for them. Connotation is a big one. Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but literally anything. Like, any words have different connotations for different people. And even if something has like a textbook definition that seems so straightforward, it might come across differently to another person who associates it more with negative emotions, while the other person doesn't feel as emotionally attached to it. So it can be rough. I've been watching Love Island. If any of you watch Love Island, I love reality television. I do. I just like a lot of stuff about love. I literally have a runny nose. It's fine. I like content, TV and film about love. I think love is such an interesting thing. I'm actually reading, I don't want to have to get up, but I'm reading a book by Bell Hooks right now. Not all about love. I'm reading Communion by Bell Hooks, which is really interesting. And it talks a lot about love and women in love and just love for everybody. I think that love is just awesome, and we should all open ourselves up to love. And sometimes people have a pessimistic outlook on love, but love is like the greatest force of all. It's the most powerful thing and can change the world in so many ways. It doesn't have to be romantic. It's just love. It doesn't have to be romantic. Love between human beings and kindness and doing things out of love. And it's beautiful. It really is. What was I talking about? Love Island. Love Island. I like Love Island, because I think it's an interesting, it is actually, oh my gosh, it's an interesting exploration of human nature in romantic relationships, even though so if you don't know what Love Island is a reality television series where a group of men and a group of women are put in a villa in some beautiful destination location. It's currently Fiji, and there's a bunch of different versions, by the way. There's like Love Island USA, there's Love Island Australia, UK, probably more, but they're put into this location, and then they just have to like match up and try to find love within like couplings of the people that live in the villa, and they switch out, and sometimes people get eliminated. They have to go through challenges, tests, romantic tests. Very interesting. It's, people say like reality television is like garbage and these people are trashy, whatever. It's somewhat true, but it's also entertaining because it's fun, and also because for me, I really like observing the, I suppose, like psychological or like sociological aspect of it, like how people interact in these relationships, because it's essentially like a heightened, like sped up environment where you are tasked with coupling up with this person that you barely know, getting to know them on like a deeper level and really trying to connect with them. And then your relationship is tested when other people come in and they date. Everyone is dating each other at the same time, which is not necessarily what it's like for most people in the real world. So it's very interesting conversations around love in those situations. Not saying those people are necessarily all like in love, because they are like, you've only known this person for like 2 weeks, but you're attached to another human being. And like, why do we attach ourselves to other human beings? What makes us believe somebody is like our person in that scenario? I think that's very interesting. I think that's very interesting in the real world as well too, because I've just been exploring that within myself, and sort of how I reflect other people, or I mirror other people and they reflect me to myself. Why am I like attracted to the things that I'm attracted to? What does this say about like my internal world and what I'm searching for? Especially as like I'm in a period of my life where I'm really changing a lot. I'm 21 years old and I'm going through a lot of change, and it's just kind of like, as I change, I look for different things in relationships and friendships and romantic relationships, and it's surprising. Change is surprising, and it's constant, and it's crazy. to put it into simple terms, it is crazy, and I'm sure you know that too, because human beings are always changing. People do change. I've been listening to what's it? Yes, I'm Changing by Tame Impala. Great song. That's the song recommendation. The song recommendation for today, if you want to listen to that. Really good. Just great song. And literally there's a lyric that's like, they say people never change, but they do. And it's so simple, but I think some of the most profound things we can learn as human beings are the most simple, that people can change. It's maybe not necessarily in the ways that we think that they will, but they do. People are always changing. Things are always changing about you. Your inner world is always shifting. It's literally impossible to not change, because the world is constantly changing. And I don't even mean like the political, what is it, the Jaden Smith quote, the political, and what is the Jaden Smith quote? He's like, the political and economic state of the world right now. If you know, you know, Jaden Smith, there's like a video of him being like, kids my age are so silly. They're like, duh, 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 duh. I'm like, guys, can we talk about the political and economic state of the world right now? But yeah, so I don't even mean that's always changing, because yes, that is always changing, but the earth itself is always changing. Physically, your environment is changing. So how could you not be changing when nature is changing right in front of you, and you are a vessel of nature. You are a being of nature, you know. I hope people don't forget that we are animals. Not in a bad way. Like, don't go out and like destroy shit or something, or do, if you want to. But we are like animals, and that's beautiful. Like, human beings we are beautiful. Sometimes I like to go on walks in nature and stuff. Like, I think it's really nice. I think we are so lucky. Speaking of, today's Thanksgiving, if I didn't already mention that. So gratitude. We are so lucky to have the planet that we have, and love it and cherish it. And yeah, I'm a pretty optimistic person, so I don't like to be like, oh, it's all gonna be gone. Why have kids in this life? They're not gonna be able to experience so and so. I don't think that's true. We thought the world was gonna end in 2012, so here we are, y'all. I think there's a lot of great things and beautiful things to experience, and I think there are going to be great things and beautiful things to experience for at least a little while. So let's be optimistic. Let's have a little fun. It's okay. It's okay to be optimistic about things. And yeah, that's who I am. That's what I identify with. Yeah. I don't really know. Maybe this is just like a short intro episode. I'm not really sure what else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, it's funny. Just like Mercury is in retrograde right now. If you don't know what that is, it's like for people who are interested in astrology, the idea that planets and the stars and their changes influence life on planet Earth, and other planets, I presume. The idea that the changes once again of the stars and the planets, like when you were born, also influence the type of person you are. That's astrology. But it also applies as the planets and the stars, as they change. So right now the planet Mercury is in retrograde. It's going backward, rotating backwards or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Something about that is what I've heard. And that has to do with chaos. If you ever heard people, in some sense, people have said like, oh, Mercury is in retrograde, that's why I was late to work or something. But it's the idea that Mercury in retrograde is somehow putting you in that sort of situation. And I've also heard it's a time for reflection on, just in general, maybe it's chaotic because you're reflecting on past things that have come up over the last year or so or whatever, and it's a time for those things to be re-reviewed and reassessed in your life. And I think that's pretty true for me. I've just kind of been reflecting on where I'm at and things that I've been going through, and looking back and being like, oh, I was there, now I'm here, which is crazy. I feel like I've gone through a lot of profound change in my life in the past couple of months, and like I said, yes, I'm changing. Shout out to Impala. But yeah, so I think it's interesting. I try to look back on those things and emotions and experiences, just everything, with gratitude. Thanksgiving, back to Thanksgiving, shout out Thanksgiving. And just be like, yeah, I mean, obviously there were experiences that were really intense and things that, I don't know if I have any regrets, actually. Like, so no, like, no regrets, but I definitely had experiences that were intense and completely changed me and changed my view of the world, and I'm still experiencing that, and I'm still going through that all the time. Change is constant. But during this period of time, I'm looking back on that with a lot of gratitude, because it's like, that shaped me to be who I am today. And I think that's why sadness or intense emotion or bad things that we experience are just so important It's that idea of duality in life. We're able to appreciate happiness more because we experience that sadness. It's literally, it's not yin and yang per se, because I don't think that's what yin and yang like represents, but kind of. Just like the dark needs the light. There's probably a term or something that I'm trying to think of, but I don't know what it is right now. I just think it's I think it's also like a Buddhist belief, somewhat, kind of. I don't consider myself Buddhist. My mom is Buddhist, but I grew up in Thailand, so I feel like a lot of my beliefs have been informed. I mentioned this if you watched the first episode of the podcast. I did mention this a little bit. I might just slowly like dive into that more over time, because I think that my upbringing definitely 100% influenced the type of person that I came out to be and that I am now and that I'm forming into, because I identify as spiritual and I hold sort of Buddhist ideas, and I wouldn't say like practices, but yeah, those ideas shaped my own concept of spirituality. And I'm not really religious, but spirituality, as well as my father's upbringing being like Christian, but being not so attached to Christianity, just sort of general ideas of Christianity. So yeah, good things can exist, and so can bad things. Bad, like, things. It's also like, if you want to like go to the core of it, good and bad are human concepts. So I find it tough to talk about this sometimes, because I don't know how people are going to receive it, to be like, murder is like bad. Yes. It's not cool. It's bad, like, to kill somebody. And it induces, like, I don't even know if I'm using induces right now. I don't know why. Instills, like, bad feelings, all these, like, negativity, right? The darkness. But where am I going with this? And then there's, like, happiness. And, like, happiness is, like, a good thing. This is a great analogy. Really explaining this well. Yeah. It's just those core ideas that, yes, these things are bad. Yes, these things are good. But these are, like, human concepts. They're inherently, like, human concepts. At the core of everything, at the very, like, core, like, of existence, none of that shit, like, matters. This is spirituality. This is the idea of, like, an ego death. Watch, like, Jim Carrey. Like, I love Jim Carrey. And I don't know if I talked about this yet on the podcast, but I really do love Jim Carrey. I think he's awesome. I think we have the same two astrological significant placements. He's also a Capricorn with the Gemini moon, I think. Astrology. I love astrology. But that's, like, I talked a bit about this in episode 2. If you're not really, like, familiar with astrology, like, those ideas that, like, so when I was born, the sun was in Capricorn and the moon was in Capricorn, the constellation, or I don't know what it is, actually. I just know it's fun. The sun was in Capricorn, which is, it was in a direction, or it was facing something that has to do with Capricorn. I'll have to look this up after so I can actually be more informed on this. But the moon was in Gemini. And the same is true for when Jim Carrey was born, which is interesting. So maybe that's why I like him so much. But I also just like the way he's a very spiritual person. And he went through a significant experience in his life where he shed his concept of ego. If you don't know, the idea, I would say in, like, spiritual practice, and maybe some religions, maybe Buddhism talks a bit about this with different terms, but the idea that we have the ego and then the self. So your ego is the things in your life that, like the material world, your attachment to. I hope I do a good job of explaining this. I'm going to try my best, because I sort of just like understand this for myself, but I hope I can articulate it well. Your attachment to the material world, the person that you are, the things that you like, just like, oh, sorry. Sorry, I bumped you. But not even just that, the way that you talk, the things that you think, all of it. But beyond the ego is the self. At the very core, like what you are, when all of that is stripped away from you. Everything. Like, not even just like, oh, I like the color, like purple. Yeah, that's like your ego, I suppose. But also just like the very like core of your being, like your emotions, like your attachments to like everything that makes you like human. Just like attachment to anything. I think that's the best I can articulate it for now. If you're more interested, please Google it. They will probably explain it better than I can. But there's the idea that the ego is this like human experience, and the self is just like that, just what are you when you're not like this like character, like you're not talking a certain way, or you just are like nothing, but like everything, because that's also the idea that everything is energy and everything is interconnected, and we are beings of just like, again, I wish I could do this justice. I wish I could explain it better, because I know it to be true for myself and I resonate with it a lot, but sometimes I struggle to explain it to other people. But yeah, the self is like the core of like who you are. If you're nothing but just existence, you're just something. So Jim Carrey, I believe he experienced what is called like an ego death, which some of you may be like, oh yeah, that's when you like take a lot of drugs. For some people, yeah, they might take like psychedelic substances and then like experience an ego death, because psychedelics are inherently like a spiritual experience for a lot of people, for some people. But also you can, I think, experience an ego death without psychedelic substances or any substances. And I think Jim Carrey experienced at least like some form of an ego death. So there's a lot of content of him online being like, none of this matters, and like, yeah, like none of this matters, which a lot of people might be taken aback by that, because they're like, oh, like he's like depressed and he's like, he doesn't care about not like he doesn't care about the world, but like, yeah, he's like depressed and like nihilistic is the word that they use. Nihilism is like interesting. I don't completely know enough about it to talk about it yet. I think it's like, yeah, like the idea that like nothing matters, but it can almost border on pessimistic sometimes, because people are like, yeah, whatever, fuck it, nothing matters, right? But people are also saying Jim Carrey is like an optimistic nihilist. So he's like, nothing matters, but in like a good way. I don't know. I don't even like label it like that. I just know I just say he's like, he's spiritual and he went through an ego death. So he had some sort of experience where he's like, oh, none of this is real. Like his ego death, his ego shed or died or whatever, right? And he saw what it's like to just be the self, the core of himself, where nothing matters, because all these human concepts that we created, even down to the ideas of good and bad that we gave a name to, we created, they're just concepts that we made. At the very core of everything just is. Yeah, that's where I'm kind of going with that. If this is like the first time you're ever hearing something like that, just take a step back and take it all in. You might be like, what? If this is the first time you're ever hearing like that discussed, not discussed like ew, like discussed, talked about, and you're interested, let yourself fall down a rabbit hole. That's what I did about 4 or 5 years ago when I first discovered and kind of felt myself in touch with spiritual ideas. So if you're interested in that, explore it more. And yeah, I really appreciate spirituality because, oh my gosh, like, we're human beings. That's crazy. Like, I am not religious, like I said, so it's not so much about, oh, when I die, send me to heaven, but it's like, we're here, and there's some reason that we're here, and we're all here, and we're interacting, and we're doing the thing, and we're living, and we're being. So maybe if you're interested in that, then go be interested in that, because it's kind of crazy. Like, you're living life, but not, like, why? I mean, I don't think we'll ever know why, so good luck with that one, because I've not figured out that one either, but I have a great appreciation for it because I do believe that we all have purpose, because you exist, so you have purpose. I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode. It's very short, but I just kind of wanted to do an introduction to, I think this is a good introduction to who I am and what I want this to be. So thank you so much for watching. And I was going to say, yeah, thank you for coming back. If you came back, thank you for watching for the first time. I love you. I love you. Thank you for watching. Spread the love, spread the gratitude this holiday season, and take care of yourself and do things that make you happy. Okay. Listen to Yes, I'm Changing by Tame Impala if you want to. Okay. I love you. Bye.